The state of New Hampshire is facing legal trouble from the ACLU after a woman ended up trapped in an emergency room for weeks. During that time, she was forbidden from leaving as well as denied medical psychiatric attention. What a crazy story. I've got Molly Barrows here with me to talk about it. Molly, walk us through this a little bit. You hear the surface facts and you go, no, there's got to be more here. What happened?
I know there is more, but tragically it's more in the realm of there are too many patients that are experiencing the same problem. And I think it basically goes to the bigger issue that we aren't doing enough to help people who have mental problems in this country. You know, you have 1.2 million somewhere in there that are basically incarcerated or in different sorts of holding facilities. They're really experiencing mental problems. And in this particular case, this is about ERs. So that's what happens if you're experiencing a mental collapse of some sort. It's ERs and jails and prisons that end up being certainly jails and ERs that are the first line of defense. So in this woman's case, she's from New Hampshire, 61 years old. She's one of a handful of defendants being represented by the ACLU against the state of New Hampshire for basically violating their due process.
Okay, the typical story you hear about is you'll have somebody's homeless. They go to the emergency room. They don't feel well. They're in the emergency room. Somebody diagnoses them in a quick diagnosis, DSM-5 kind of diagnosis.
Right.
You're schizophrenic. And rather than having an infrastructure in place in the United States where we can send them, they say, well, we have to keep you here because you're a danger to yourself or somebody else,
right,
without being Baker Acted.
Right.
That's where it really gets ugly. In other words, there's no court proceeding that says we can hold you, which would be Baker Act.
Exactly.
That's you pose a threat. The other problem is the emergency room has nowhere to dump them.
That's right. They're there to fix the physically ill for the most part, or evaluate the mental illness. And then the process is supposed to be that if they are deemed mentally incompetent or having a psychotic break or some sort of mental illness that requires further treatment, they're supposed to be moved to a psychiatric facility. And then in this woman's case, as in the case of the others that you were talking about, if it's not a Baker Act, but there's a legal petition that has been signed either by a family member and or a medical professional that says they're a danger to themselves or others, they're supposed to be sent to a psychiatric facility and then have a court hearing within 3 days to be able to argue their side of it. And in this case, this woman never did want to go to the hospital. She was having a bad day, she said, September of last year. Her daughter thought she was agitated and upset and was concerned. She called 911. The police showed up. She told the police she didn't want to go. They thought she was agitated. Long story short, she was sedated, woke up in the ER, said, I want to go home. They said no. An ER doctor and her daughter again signed that legal petition, but she sat in that ER for 20 days because there weren't enough beds available. And that's another issue that you're getting to, not enough beds available.
Well, there's nowhere, even outside that emergency room, there's no infrastructure for mental health to even send them because we cut, I think under Clinton, we cut, the cuts were unbelievable. I don't remember the percentages,
right,
but they were big percentage cuts. So how does this manifest itself? Since we don't have any way to take care of these people, mental health is way down on the pecking order.
And it's a shame.
We see the shooting cases, and then somebody will say, well, it's not about guns, it's about mental health. Probably some mixture of the two. But there's other issues that's manifesting themselves right now.
Absolutely. We've got addiction. You talked about the shootings. I mean, just check out any nightly news program and you're going to see some crime or some incident that's happened that is alluding to mental illness, and there just simply aren't enough resources, whether it's people not feeling comfortable going to their psychiatrist for fear that their insurance companies are going to request their papers in order to justify covering the expenses, or you have someone that, going back to the multiple shootings that we've had, the school shootings, the Parkland shooter
Well, how about
in
the
Florida.
homeless? How about the homeless?
The homeless is another
When Clinton
huge
signed
issue.
these new bills, our homeless problem became massive. There were no psychiatric facilities to take them in. As a matter of fact, psychiatric facilities actually sent them out the door and closed down. So now we're seeing most of these ACLU cases are really where the homeless goes in the hospital. They hold them there, and it's no escape. I've got about 30 seconds. What types of restrictions did they put on her when she was in the hospital?
Limited access to family, limited access to the bathroom, limited access to the phone. She was given crayons and a piece of paper to write with. She took notes, basically frustrated about the whole situation. By the time she was transferred to a psychiatric facility and got up before a judge, her daughter, who signed that legal document, didn't even show up. So she basically was allowed to go. She was
housed for 20 days.
Housed for more than 20 days, and basically, finally, when she got her chance to have a hearing, it was negated. But they were saying that never should have happened.
Okay, so no Baker Act, no committal. She just is in an emergency room in La La Land, and we're seeing this more and more
because of failure of the process.
Right. Thanks for joining me.
All right, thanks, Pat.
WhatsApp and its parent company, Facebook, have sued an Israeli tech company for installing spyware on users' phones and violating people's privacy. RT's Brigitte Santos joins me now from Los Angeles with that story. Brigitte, what are the details of this story? You're hearing bits and pieces of it, but give me some details here.
Well, Mike, WhatsApp and Facebook, as you said, have sued an Israeli surveillance technology company called the NSO Group in California federal court for allegedly installing spyware on users' phones in violation of their privacy, which is kind of ridiculous because Facebook has their own privacy issues. But anyways, this cyber attack reportedly targeted 1,400 WhatsApp users, including human rights lawyers, journalists, political dissidents, diplomats, and even government and military officials in over 20 countries. Investigators were first alerted about the issue after NSO's flagship spyware, known as Pegasus, was discovered on the smartphones of infected users. The malware was reportedly installed by making a WhatsApp call to the victims who did not even need to answer the phone to become compromised. After Pegasus was installed, it then contacted servers controlled by its operators and sent back victims' data, including their passwords, contact lists, calendar events, text messages, and even voice calls that they had made through other apps.
Well, it sounds to me like almost a doxing. I mean, okay, first of all, who are they going after? They're going after journalists. They're going after political dissidents that disagree with what Israel's doing, whatever the situation may be. They're going after even ambassadors. This is spying at its very worst. This is the kind of thing that we've talked about on this show where in the church hearings we discovered that the FBI, the NSA, and the CIA have been doing this type of thing on Americans on a regular basis, and they still are. It's still going on. But now they're caught red-handed. So this is the NSO here. What can you tell me about this NSO group? Give me a little background here.
So they're an Israeli company. The defendants' known clients currently include government agencies in Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, and Mexico, as well as some unnamed private entities, which I'm sure we'll be learning more about in the coming weeks. WhatsApp says that NSO profited from the manufacturing, distribution, and operation of surveillance technology that's designed to intercept and extract information and valuable intelligence from almost any device. Now, NSO Group Technologies is an Israeli cyber intelligence firm. The Israeli government denies any involvement in the group's alleged global hacking, but the group's founders are widely reported as ex-members of the Israeli Defense Force's most important signals intelligence gathering arm, known as Unit 8200. In a statement, NSO says the sole purpose of our company is to provide technology to licensed government intelligence and law enforcement agencies to help them fight terrorism and serious crime. Our technology is not designed or licensed for use against human rights activists and journalists.
Okay, so what we have here is the same MO we usually see: deny, deny, deny. Come back and say you have the high ground because we're trying to go after terrorists, we're trying to go after serious crime violations, and therefore if you tie our hands, we're not going to be able to do all these great things. Isn't that kind of the talking point here, that it's unpatriotic for you to come out and say that we should not be spying on journalists, we shouldn't be spying on political dissidents? It's unpatriotic for you to come out and say that A, we haven't done it, and B, even if we did, so what? We're actually accomplishing something. Isn't that kind of what's going on here? It's tied
That's what they're
directly to the
saying, but
Israeli
also
government.
they're lying, because in 2017, Citizen Lab revealed that independent investigators who were looking into the disappearance of those 43 students in Mexico who are now believed to be murdered, that those people were targeted for surveillance by NSO's Pegasus spyware. This spyware was also reportedly used to track the Saudi dissident Jamal Khashoggi's smartphone before his murder last year. So they can say that they're not using their technology on these people, but they clearly are.
It's a story that's going to keep getting worse because, you know what? The American public has become very comfortable with the idea that it's okay for you to know everything about my Social Security number, what I had for dinner last night, who I date, or where I'm traveling. That seems to be the norm in America right now. Thank you for joining me, Brigitte, okay?
Thanks, Mike.
Every year, 1 million hernia surgeries are performed in the United States. Unfortunately, some mesh implants that are used in these surgeries have caused complications, including infection and organ damage that led to surgeries to correct those problems. If this has happened to you, learn more about the hernia mesh lawsuit by going online to hernia.law or call us for a free consultation about your legal rights.